I'm interested to see how Grant Ament is going to do. I think being, the player that he has an opportunity to not only just score, but his ability to feed with the guys around him. I think is only going to benefit him for sixes. I'm a firm believer that Xander Dixon has a really good shot of winning the Golden Stick just because of how well his game translates. He's going to be able to essentially play box across with the 6x6 net, which is, any player's dream. A box player's dream, just being able to have so much more room to score and, more error involved. So those are my two guys that I'm really looking forward to. Just from a scoring standpoint. From a defensive standpoint, I said, I'm looking forward to Entenmann. I'm excited to see Brendan Krebs. He had a pretty notable PLL fantasy season, so seeing how he could translate into sixes is going to be really interesting as well. So those are just a couple names that I'm trying to, think of from a fantasy standpoint, because there's not really, how is defense, how do you control defensive players in fantasy stats? It's tougher than it is for 10-on-10 lacrosse. So it's going to be a lot of moving parts, but interested to see how it pans out.
Cannons are probably my pick still, just because of the continuity from last year's championship series. You're returning most of the people that were on that championship series roster last year, as well as a lot of the people that were on the team in the summer. A lot of both Atlas, Whipsnakes, Archers are all kind of filling holes where Cannons aren't doing that a whole lot. They don't have a lot of guys that are, playing in the NLL or out for whatever reason with other coaching commitments and stuff. So I like the continuity there. And then some of the additions that they have on their roster too, like kind of bolster that. I think Will Manny, he has experience in sixes. He played 2 years ago with the Archers. So having him and Holman back together, and then you talk about, again, guys that can kind of go up and down: Ethan Rawl, Bubba Fairman, Chris Islanian. It doesn't look like Pat Islanian's on the roster this year, but those are guys that, can kind of hold it down on the defensive end as well as push and transition. And then Colin Kirst is probably the X factor there, because he is really good against long range shots. And we saw that last year. The Water Dogs and the Cannons both were great at defending the 2-pointer. And that's really how, teams can either, make their money, or it can break them if they can shoot a lot of twos or if they give up a lot of twos. So I do like the Cannons. That'd probably be my pick.
Brooks was there for 2 years ago's championship series, so he obviously knows what he's talking about when it comes to sixes lacrosse, and it's new for everyone. I think everyone's got to realize that sixes is a new format. It's still evolving, and if you look at how sports evolve over time, there's so much change that goes into them. So I think we're going to see a lot of schematics differences. I remember speaking to Brooks about how he's going to try and implement basketball plays and basketball tendencies into his sixes roster. So I think they're going to be a very interesting team to watch, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they shape out on Tuesday.